All right, thank you so much. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Please feel free to interrupt if you need me to go over something again or I'm not speaking clearly. As Brandon said, my name is Noel Zickefoose, and I'm your account manager at Overdrive. I'm sure a lot of you know this by now, but Overdrive is the name of the company, but Sora is the platform that you're using to access kind of your like Overdrive digital collection. So some people still get confused wondering if we're a different company, like is Sora a different company? So just to be clear on that. So today I really wanted to talk to you about obviously Sora, but we're really actually going to focus a little bit more on what you can do in what's called Marketplace. So you've got Sora, you've had Sora for many, many years now as your school districts and as part of the CUES, service center and consortium. But I really wanted to start to encourage all of you to get more into the back end of things. So really getting into like, where do these books come from? How can I start to customize this a little bit more for the students in my school or in our district? And really start to equip you with the tools that exist that I think most of you really haven't had any training on or access to for a long time. So that's going to be the focus today. I think this will be probably a lot of new information for most of you. And I'm excited. I hope that you'll come away with honestly lots of questions. Today shouldn't be the only time that we talk about Marketplace. I'm available to help you really get into that if it's something that interests you. So again, just to kind of level set, what is Sora? If there's anybody here who really hasn't used it yet, Sora is a digital reading platform that ensures every one of your students have access to the right books. I do want to make sure I at least give you the basics. So to get started with Sora, you can download the Sora app. If you've got an iPhone or a Samsung phone or some type of tablet or iPad, you're going to be able to go to your app store and download Sora as an app. And hopefully you're encouraging your students to do that also, because Sora is really meant to be available to them all the time, at home, on the road. If they're at the doctor's office, in the waiting room, it's meant to be the ability for them to read anywhere they go, as long as they have a device, which most of them do.
Noel, can hold on one second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you guys need a computer to want to follow along? There are some Chromebooks in the back if you want to grab, if you need a device. Okay, that's all I need to say.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So yeah, it's an app, but it's also available to be accessed on a Chromebook on any kind of laptop or computer. So there's a website. It looks and feels exactly the same as the app. You would just go to soraapp.com. So it's SORAAPP.com. So it's really also built to be device agnostic, meaning it doesn't matter what kind of device you have, you should be able to use Sora. I did include the setup code for all of CUES for every single district. The setup code to get to the sign-in page is CUESUT, so CUESUT. Or you can just click the link, this direct link. As always, I'm going to share this full PowerPoint with all of you, so you're going to have access to all the links that I share with you today. But that on the screen there is the direct link. It takes you straight to the sign-in page. And all your students have to do from there is click the correct school district, and then they're signing in with their regular school credentials. So we've got Sora connected up with the kind of Active Directory, also known as Microsoft, also known as LDAP. You might have another way you refer to it in your school district. So you're using those credentials. All of you should be able to sign into Sora, and every single one of your students and teachers, everybody in your entire school district is already set up to be able to sign into Sora. All right, so moving a little bit past, I guess we're still covering the basics here. So when you sign into Sora, you actually have access to quite a few books that just sort of come pre-packaged with the platform. So Overdrive has worked with the publishers that we partner with, and there are between 300 and 400 free ebooks and a handful of audiobooks that are available in Sora, and those are actually unlimited access, or what we call simultaneous use. So these are amazing for when you're demonstrating Sora. Have every single student in the class check one of these books out because they're unlimited. Every single person in the district could access these at the same time. They're excellent for teachers to use if there's a little bit of extra time at the end of a test or some type of activity. They know these books are always going to be available for students to borrow right then and there. So a ton of benefits, which is always knowing that you've got some simultaneous use titles in your collection. I did include a link, of course, that you'll get access to later, where you can explore exactly what's in each of these 4 collections. Sora Starter Collection is, I think, about 120 kind of premium popular titles. Then there's a collection of Spanish titles for young readers. So if you've got a Spanish population, or even if you've got Spanish teachers teaching, even if it's high school students, those beginner Spanish books could be excellent for them to just get a better grasp on the language. There's a social emotional learning collection. I think that's got about 60 titles in it. They are geared toward primarily younger readers, with just a handful of books for older kids. And then as always, you've got classic literature. So these are going to be titles that are public domain, meaning no one owns the rights to these books anymore. So they're basically just free and available in the market. But those can be included in Sora to give your kids and your teachers a really easy and high quality way to access those titles. And again, all unlimited access. This is kind of a basic, but I wanted to make sure that all of you have a reminder that Sora also allows you to access your public library. So the benefits to doing that, maybe you're already a digital reader and you use, maybe you go to the Overdrive app, or you're using the Libby app through the public library, which is phenomenal. I'm glad that you obviously already appreciate digital and kind of know the benefits of it. I would encourage you to add your public library in Sora because it helps you see the process so that you can help students access their public library. But it also is going to give you this really easy one-stop shop to be able to access books from both the CUES Consortium collection as well as the public library in one place. And it really seamlessly will search through both of those digital libraries so that you can find the books that are available right at that moment. If it's borrowed from the CUES library, maybe it's available from the public library or vice versa. And the benefit for your students is that Sora has leveling in place to limit younger students to juvenile content. So certain grade levels are only going to be able to see juvenile titles from the public library. Certain grade levels are going to be able to see juvenile and young adult content. And then maybe some grade levels, I'm forgetting exactly how we have it set up at the moment. It's actually every single district that's part of CUES can set this up however they would like to. But oftentimes districts will open up kind of general adult access from the public library only for maybe upper grades like high school, or even 11th and 12th only. And sometimes they even just keep the high schoolers limited to young adult and allow just the staff members to see those adult titles. And then another benefit of accessing the public library in Sora, especially for students, is that Sora actually completely blocks anything that's labeled as mature adult content. So it's just a really safe way to give your students access to more titles. Currently, you would need your library card to be able to actually borrow titles from the public library collection in Sora. So the first time you click to borrow or place a hold on something, it's going to ask you to sign in, and you will be able to pick your local library from the drop down and then sign in with your library card. We do have an additional option that would bypass the need for a library card and would allow students in your school district to sign in with their, LDAP, Microsoft Active Directory credentials instead, and would eliminate the need for that library card. We don't have that set up with any of the districts that are part of the CUES consortium. But if that's something that interests you and you'd like to learn more, just please feel free to reach out to me and we can talk about what that would look like. The public libraries in your area have pretty much all been 100% on board with allowing this type of connection with school districts. So it would just be a matter of your school district feeling comfortable with that connection and then, signing a consent form. And then we basically set it up, and it's as easy as that. So keep that in mind and follow up with me if you would like to, look into that a little bit more. So I've kind of foreshadowed this a little, but as you know, I think the consortium or the CUES Service Center, so Brandon and his team, they're purchasing content, ebooks, audiobooks, magazines, all kind of things, read-alongs that are available to all of the participating school districts. So all of your students have access to that content, with the caveat that, of course, that collection is leveled so that younger students, are limited to only titles that are appropriate for them. Middle school kids have access to more content, and then your high school students and staff have access to really everything that's available through the consortium. In addition to that, though, you do have the ability as a school district to purchase additional content and customize Sora just for the students in your district, or in your particular school. So I wanted to dive into Marketplace today. Ultimately, if you're using Marketplace, you are working with your school district's what we call an Advantage account. Brandon had shared with me, like, everybody that kind of signed up to attend today. So you actually should have a login to Marketplace now, as of this morning. And you will hopefully have an email from me as well, with just some additional resources to help you get logged in, get started with Marketplace. And just a heads up that if you are interested in this, those emails that came from Marketplace to get you logged in, they have an activation link, and those links do expire after just a few days. So I'd really encourage you to just, take care of getting logged into Marketplace right away. And then even if you're not really ready to dive in yet, at least you've activated your account and you'll be able to come back at any time and start to, work within the Marketplace site. So I did include my email address here in the top right corner if you are having trouble getting signed into your Marketplace account, or maybe you didn't RSVP for the session, but you're here today, which is awesome. Please feel free to email me and I will get you set up. The website for Marketplace is listed here on the screen. Hopefully it's not too small. That's marketplace.overdrive.com. And your username is going to be a little bit long and funny. It's going to start out with CUESUT, so CUESUT .adv, which is short for Advantage account. And then it's going to be some type of acronym for your school district. So like South Sanpete, I think is SS. Oh gosh, I'm not even going to try to guess, but maybe like SS something D. It'll be listed in that email that you got, and then it'll be first initial last name. So it's a doozy. Usually when you first sign in, the website will ask if you'd like to save that, and I highly recommend doing that. And then you do not have to type it in every single time you go to log in. Any questions right now? Wave your hand if you need me to stay on the slide. Okay. So one of the things that we know, just after working with districts, for me it's been about 5 years now. One of the most challenging things about starting to really build your digital library, to start purchasing, is really the fact that with digital you have a number of different ways that you can purchase content. So we call those lending models. Or sometimes we'll call them like purchasing models or purchasing options. This is a chart of the various ways that you can purchase digital content. So I think with print, you're more likely to see like, okay, with this company, it's $10.99 and this one, it's $11.99. Which one do I want? Probably the cheaper one. With digital, it's so much more complicated. I guess just to give you sort of the background on this, it's the publishers that own the rights to these books. And so it's them they're deciding how they want to make their books available for purchase. So unfortunately, sometimes they have different ideas about what they think is the best way to offer their content. And therefore we end up with quite a few different options. So the main ones that you typically run into are called OCOU. It stands for one copy, one user. Those are books that are kind of like print books in that if you buy one copy, it's available to one person at a time, but they never expire. So to me, that's unlike print because there's absolutely no way you can lose these books. They can't get damaged. They can't, get stuck in someone's backpack for 3 years and not ever get back to the library. So one copy, one user are almost magical in that way, in my opinion. You get this book forever and ever and ever, and nothing can happen to it. Then you've got metered access. Those are also very much like your print books, where you purchase one copy, it will only be available to one person at a time. You buy 10 copies, then 10 kids can have it at the same time. Except metered access, or MA, those copies do expire. So this is kind of where it gets complicated. Sometimes it's after a certain period of time, like 12 months, 24 months, 36. Sometimes it's after a certain number of checkouts. Usually that's 26 checkouts, and then that copy of the book, expires because it ran out of checkouts. And then you've also got a metered access 100 checkout, and that one, it's not one person at a time. It's just you bought 100 checkouts, and it can get used at any time in any number of checkouts, at a time. So if you get to the point where you feel pretty confident about the lending models, you are about 90% of the way to being able to purchase and do all the things you need to do with a digital library. So I wanted to include this chart, kind of give you the heads up on that this is the most challenging piece of everything. And then I did include a link, of course, to a help article that kind of reiterates this chart, but then has some additional information on each of these options. But to keep things simple, the main thing to remember is your kind of regular copies that you purchase that you make available for people to just borrow, they circulate just like your print library, are going to be either OCOU or MA. So one copy, one user, or metered access. The next thing I wanted to be sure to cover, though, is a digital class set. So the idea with a digital class set is that, those regular copies are often not the best way to meet the needs of a larger group of students. So inevitably, as you start to really promote and share your Sora digital library, you will get questions from teachers, especially, or potentially even your principal, like, is this something we could use in the classroom? Or is there any way that I could, can we use this with like all of my kids because we're about to study To Kill a Mockingbird? Like, how do I get enough copies for that? And typically the answer is going to be a class set. So I'm only going to cover this particular model more in depth today because it really is almost always the go-to option for those larger group needs. You can see if you've been able to get signed into Marketplace at this point in time. When you get into Marketplace, you will see you've got a shop menu, and you'll get to the class set lending model by clicking on that shop menu and clicking on class sets. Class sets are actually really neat because you're basically renting copies for your students. So it's different than maybe the standard or stereotypical class set in print because oftentimes your teacher might have 30 copies of a particular book, and they're actually keeping those in the classroom, and class period 1 comes in and they read it for that 45 minutes, and then the next group of kids come in And they're not able to take those books with them because there aren't enough for every student to, keep with them. So in that sense, digital could be a nice option, especially when you've got teachers who are saying, I'd like a way to give my kids their own copy, because it's important to me that they be able to read at home or review at home, with the added benefit that you're sending them off with their own copy, but they can't possibly lose it, because it's available to them on any device. So one of the ways that you can use class sets is you actually purchase a copy for every specific student in the group, and you put in their username, the same username they use when they sign into Sora. You're actually able to use that to give a specific copy to each one of those kids. So that's phenomenal if you've got, a list, exactly who's going to be reading this book. It's everyone in the 7th grade, or it's everyone in Mrs. Smith's class. It's very easy at that point to say, I know exactly who needs a copy. I know it's 26 kids. We'll buy them. It assigns it straight to their account. So when that kid hops into Sora, it's already checked out to them. And with class sets, they get it for 90 days. A newer option that I'm guessing, even if you're familiar with Marketplace, you may not have heard of because it's new as of, I think, a month ago. We now offer class sets on demand. So you're going to run into situations where it does not make sense to assign copies to specific students because your school is really focused on choice reading. And so your teacher is saying, hey, I'm giving the kids 5 or 6 different books to pick from. How do we make sure they have access to those books? But I don't know if Jimmy's going to pick this one or that one. That would be such an enormous amount of work. So on demand allows you to actually buy copies in the class set model and just make them available. And then the students are able to borrow the one that is of interest to them. So the choice reading example is an excellent reason to use on demand. Anytime you just feel like figuring out who needs the book is too much work or would be really difficult, you can just buy enough copies and then make them available in Sora. Or you might have situations where maybe you have a bunch of copies in print, but not enough. And so you can start to fill the gap with digital copies. You don't need to know who's going to select the digital option. You can just buy enough copies to fill the gap. And then, whoever needs it can go into Sora and get it from there. So any questions on class set options or how this works?
Question.
Yeah. So where does this funding come from? And if we buy these sets, they're just for our school or our district, and who is purchasing? Where does the money come from?
Oh, that's a good question. That is going to be something to figure out kind of within your school or district. So some districts maybe they have a little bit better funding in the library. And so sometimes librarians will purchase these, or that's always been the way it was, where the library budget went toward class sets. Many times it's more of a curricular budget or a textbook budget that purchases books. And in that case, ideally the funding would come from there. It would be, instead of buying print, that funding would go toward digital. But unfortunately, it's going to be different for every school or district. So good question, not something I could specifically answer, but maybe something to talk to your principal about.
Thank you.
What else? What other questions are there?
That question. How do you put your public library onto Sora? How do you actually do that?
Yeah, so if you're signed into Sora, if you go to your Explore page, you might be able to go on any tab, but definitely if you're on the Explore menu, which is like the binoculars at the bottom, you're gonna have a 3-bar menu, or like some people call it a hamburger menu. It is in there that you'll see the option to add a library. So then you should be able to look for like the Beehive Consortium, or if you're part of another library system, or you can typically just type in like your local library and it will pull up as being under the umbrella of one of those larger public library consortiums.
One other question as well.
Yeah.
When you first started this about those unlimited sets that you can have as many, there were the 4 different, I'm on Sora's page right now. How come I can't see where those are?
So if you sign into Sora, we actually have them organized into collections. So you could either scroll until you see them, but I would recommend make sure you're on the Explore tab again, so those binoculars, and then click on the word that says collections. It's kind of the top right corner. And then the collections that hold all of those unlimited access titles, one of them is called Discover the Classics. One of them is called, sorry.
In the search bar, sorry, I'm still not finding.
Oh no, so you won't go in the search bar. So get out of the search bar and then you'll click, hopefully you see the word collections. You would see like your 3-bar menu or a hamburger menu, and then there's sort of a bar across the top where you see collections. I should have hopped into Sora and shown you. Bear with me.
There were more than 4, like when I hit collections, there are quite a few. There's more like 12 options or something. Were there more than the 4 that you started with?
Well, so there are 4 collections that specifically were built to make it easy to find those simultaneous use titles. But lots of collections get built in Sora to also help kids or teachers find, you know, books that are of interest to them in other types of subject areas. So you'll see a ton of collections, but there are 4 that are specifically built so that it's a little bit easier to find those titles that are unlimited access.
Find the Spanish, the young title one. How come I don't see it there? Or is it under classics? I don't know why I can't.
Well, I might, if you email me, maybe I can double check. There could be some reason that you're not seeing the same thing. But there's supposed to be a collection called Discover the Classics, one called Social and Emotional Learning Collection, one called Spanish Titles for Young Readers, and then one called Try Me Always Available Titles.
Yeah, so I just, maybe it's because I'm doing it on my phone, but I'm not seeing any of them except the Discover the Classics lists. So
It's possible. There is the ability as a school district to, and in fact, I can't see you, but what district are you a part of?
North Sanpete.
North Sanpete. It's possible that potentially someone turned on what we call advantage curation. And that would mean that you wouldn't necessarily be seeing all the updates that are getting, you know, set up by Brandon or by like us, the support team at Overdrive. So I'll look into that and just make sure that that's not the issue. But definitely email me and we can figure it out what you're running into. But thank you for the question. What other questions are there? I'm going to move on, but definitely if you didn't get my email, I'll make sure to cover that again at the end. But I would love to hear from any of you if you've got more questions or just need specific help on something. I wanted to share with you something that it's not exactly new, but maybe not even quite a year. We built something called the Student Dashboard. And this was designed to really give you this in-depth look at the reading data from your students. So all of you that have a Marketplace login are going to be able to use this Student Dashboard now and start to play around with it and see if it's something that you think would be useful to you as a librarian, and potentially something you might have a teacher who'd be really interested in this type of reading data to help her kind of intervene with students that need a little extra help, or making sure that everybody's been able to access their book. So I would definitely encourage you to get into Marketplace and start to kind of take a look at the Student Dashboard. But I'm going to show you, I'm actually going to hop into Marketplace and show you all what this dashboard looks like. It is a really neat tool, and I think you'll kind of get excited by the information that you're able to see here. So the way to get to your student dashboard once you're signed into Marketplace, you've got this menu called the Insights menu. I'm going to try to make this larger here. And Brandon, will you double check and see that you can see Marketplace on the screen now, not the slides?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, thank you. So I just clicked on the Insights menu in that blue bar, and you're going to see right along the top, it says jump to, and then you've got Sora activity and then the student dashboard. So we're going to click on that. And the first thing you have to do is you have to create a class. So you'd click manage classes, that big button there. We're going to click add new class. And then I'm going to choose to show all. I'm going to pick my school district from the drop down, which let me remind myself which one I'm in, Sevier County. Sevier County in this case, but you would pick your own school district. And then I'm just going to call this all Sevier Sora users and go ahead and click save. That you only have to do one time. So now when I go back to my dashboard, I just clicked on the word student dashboard. I'm actually able to see a list of all of the students or teachers or whoever, Sora users that have signed in and maybe checked out a book or read something. So what you'll see is the user ID. You're going to see what school building they come from. So in this case, we're seeing like some from North Sevier High School, the middle school, Red Hills Middle School. Then you see the number of books they have opened, total time read, and this is hours and minutes. So when we see like someone here has 26 hours and 29 minutes, that is incredible. Number of reading sessions, which just is like the number of times they've come in and signed in and started reading. Active days, so within the time frame that we're looking at, how many of those days have they signed in and read? Their average time per, per session, average time per book, and then if they've earned any achievements. So really robust data. You also can filter your dashboard if you want to look at maybe just this last month, for example. Maybe I just want to look at the past week. And then you are able to filter it to just a specific school building. So if you're at the high school, you could filter it to look at just in the last week at this particular high school and click update. And then it would bring up just the data for that particular school. So really robust tool. I would love for all of you to play around with this. We've had some people who've used it for like reading contests to reward the student with the most time spent reading, or maybe the school in the district with the most time spent reading, that sort of thing. This tool has been really helpful in that sense. So any questions about the student dashboard? All right, I'm gonna hop back to my slide deck. Okay, so that was all I wanted to share with you about Marketplace, and I'm going to switch gears just for a couple minutes here and talk about really promoting. So I think that's everybody's biggest challenge, is just that year after year, it really does take work to make sure that your students and your teachers know about Sora and are remembering to use it. I think a lot of times, especially the first year that someone starts to really try to take ownership and promote Sora, it feels like it's falling on deaf ears, and it's really that second year, if they continue, that they start to see the fruits of their labor. So if this is the year that you're deciding like it's time, don't get discouraged. It just takes a while for something new to really catch hold, I think. So there's just some additional resources here that you'll have access to if you'd like to get more help with Marketplace, but we will jump over to just promoting. So I really want to try to make things simple. These are kind of the 3 simple steps. If you're going to try to, promote Sora, try to just check these 3 boxes, which are 1, have something that you can hang up, something visual, so that people see, oh yeah, Sora, I see it. Otherwise, they don't see Sora, it's sort of in the clouds. So we want to give them something visual that they see. We want to have something to hand out. And we want to have something to post. And when I say post, I usually mean like social media, but I also think that could just be like a digital newsletter, email, like something that you're sending out or making visible in the digital world. However, we don't expect that you are just going to have to go like create resources. You don't need to go and design a poster or a flyer. We don't want you to feel like you have to create some type of like digital graphic or anything. We really try to make all of that for you so that all you have to do is the sharing. So I wanted to make sure you're all familiar with the Resource Center. You can, I would write this down or just visit this website if you've got a computer. The website is resources.overdrive.com. You will see a purple button that says K-12 schools. And you want to click on that. And then I would recommend just once you've gone to K-12 schools to go ahead and save that as a bookmark if you're on your own computer, or once you get back to your own computer. This is a website that is constantly being updated with new resources. As things change, we update all the resources to reflect that. So it's kind of a living, breathing type of set of tools for you. Once you're in there, this slide just shows you kind of the basics of what you can find in the Resource Center. One of those is how-to videos and webinars, which are training resources to help you learn all about Sora and the marketplace. You've got a recommended reading section, and that is a collection of lists that our Overdrive digital content librarians have built just to help make it easier for you to find books on specific subjects or types of content. And then today we're really going to focus on what's available in that promote reading to students section. So those are going to be ready to use promotional resources that are designed to just make it really easy for you to spread the word about Sora. So back to our 3 simple steps: something to hang up, something to hand out, and something to post. I wanted to make it even easier by just sharing links to the specific things that I typically think of when I think of these 3 things. So under something to hang up, you have a direct link to a very basic Sora poster. So you click that link, it'll download the poster right to your computer, and then it would just be up to you to find, how you would print that out. And I believe they're made to be like 11 by 17, so a standard printer should print them just fine. The next link is shelf cards. So those are going to be things that say like, you could put this next to your print book and say it's also available in Sora as kind of a reminder to students that they do have the digital option as well. And then a link to a bulletin board kit if you would like to make a Sora focused bulletin board. Under something to hand out, you've got a link directly to our basic how-to bookmark. So it's got the steps like download the app or go to soraapp.com, find your school, log in, and those can be customized as well. But that's the link to the basic steps to get started with Sora. Flyers, so that's a getting started guide link that you can download and print or share digitally. And then an ID card, which is awesome for especially little ones who forget their username and password. It's a way for you to provide them with that information, and then they can just keep it with them or tape it to their desk. So just some basic things for you to hand out. And then something to post or share digitally. I just created a link here to go to all of the graphics that our marketing team creates. So you can kind of pick and choose the things that you feel fit best with what the message you're trying to send out. This is just a couple more links to things. If you are looking at potentially talking to teachers about digital class sets, we have a whole set of resources to support you and your teachers. So there's a Sora for Classrooms training module that I love. There's a link here to some specific reading assessment tools, and then also some Sora lesson plans and training resources. So just another quick add-in if you're interested in going toward using it in the classroom. And then this last slide just has links to all of our social media pages to get on our email list so that you kind of stay in the know and things like the student dashboard get launched. We send out emails to let all of our partners know about that. And so I always just encourage people to make sure they're on that email list so you get that type of information. But that's really all I had to share with you. So what other questions are there before we wrap up?
I have a question. So when this all switches over to Libby, are all those URL or addresses, are they going to change?
So Libby specifically is just for public library access. What is changing soon is the Overdrive. We have an older platform that was called just like the Overdrive app, and that is going away on December 1st, and everything will switch directly to Sora, which is probably what you meant. So when the older platform goes away and everything is 100% Sora, anyone that goes to visit the older Overdrive site, website, will be automatically directed to Sora instead. So it should feel like a fairly seamless transition. It's not like they'll go to the old site and see like a dead link or something. They'll get redirected. Does that answer the question?
Kind of.
Libby is for public libraries.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, Libby is also an Overdrive app. So company is called Overdrive, and we've got the Sora app for the K-12 students and, you know, teachers. And then we've got Libby for the community or anyone, you know, that's not a part of a school district. So Libby allows you to access your public library's, you know, digital library. Sora allows you to access your school district, or in this case, the CUES consortium digital library, as well as that age appropriate access to the public library. So that's why I always say, like, if you have Sora, just use Sora. It's gonna have just about anything you need from both CUES and your local library. So hopefully that helps a little. What other questions are there? Brandon, you see anybody with a question?
I do have a question. So if you wanted to do, one of your teachers needed to use the class set, how do you get them set up with that? How do you go about getting the teacher set up with the class set?
Well, I tend to recommend that you, as like, if you're the librarian, that you do the purchasing. But for example, like if that teacher wants to do a class set and that needs to come from a classroom budget or school budget, that kind of thing. When you purchase a class set, you're able to use a purchase order number if that's useful. Some schools opt to use like a credit card. Maybe there's a specific credit card that the principal uses for purchases like that. When you purchase in Marketplace, you kind of have all the ways to purchase, whether that's, you know, using that purchase order, using a credit card, just getting invoiced for it and then sending that invoice to like your business office or accounts payable person. So ultimately it's kind of figuring out what is the process for that. And then Marketplace will be able to accommodate the process that your school or district requires.
I think the biggest thing is identifying who is running the Advantage account at each district, and then working with that individual to make the purchase, and then you as the librarian can go and make that assignment. I hope that's the process it was several. Did I state that right?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And as a district, it's really kind of up to you to decide what is going to work best for you, because you have the ability to have a committee of people, like maybe all of the librarians work together to make purchases as, you know, for the district, or you can work individually just for your school. I do tend to recommend the librarian keeps the control over purchasing, just because you really are going to be the person with the expertise to understand Marketplace and all of the purchasing options that are available and help them make those decisions on, you know, what's going to work best in different situations. But in terms of like making purchases, you can have a committee of people that all have access to the same, you know, Marketplace account. You can filter all final purchasing through one particular point person, especially if you have like a district librarian or someone that all the librarians report to. So there's a lot of flexibility, and I would say, like, as a district, you have to kind of figure out what's going to work best for everybody in the district.
So is it, you go through Marketplace to do that? Oh,
Yeah, all purchasing is done in Marketplace. Yep.
okay.
And I should have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just was asking, can I have you like really dumb it down for me, like hardcore? Purchasing isn't the issue. The issue for me is like classroom teacher comes to me, says,
Exactly.
I want this classroom set for my kids. We purchase it, then what?
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Because we have the digital copy, but how do we get it so that maybe the teacher can issue those copies to their students? Or do we, as librarians, have to assign student copies from our desk?
Yes. Okay. So there were those two different ways that you can do a class set. One is where you assign it. So if you're doing the purchasing, and I tend to recommend that, of course, you would be the person who's assigning it to the specific students. So
So
like,
they would give us a list and we would assign them out. And
yeah,
then the bottom,
exactly.
it would be there on their desktop. Okay.
Exactly. The other option would be that on-demand class set where you don't assign them. So with that, the copies are either you purchase them and they're actually available to anyone in the district,
Okay.
or there's an additional tool we didn't talk about today where you're able to put them into a bundle and make them only available through an access code. So if you preferred to go that route, you'd probably just want to reach out to me and I could help you kind of learn how to bundle them and, you know, create an access code. And then you would just share the access code with the teacher who would then share that with that class's students. And that's how they would access those. So.
Perfect.
It's really easy. It is. And you can actually do a quote too. You do the class set, you can do a quote for PO, then you can send that to the teacher so they can get a PO paid. It's really nice.
I think that's Chris talking. Everyone just emails Chris with all their questions actually. So.
Okay, so I have a SVP, but I didn't get an email from Marketplace.
Someone didn't get an email?
I didn't, yeah.
I'm sorry, who was that?
This is Jenny Anderson.
Okay, I'll look into it, Jenny. Any other questions?
I was just gonna say, we did, as a middle school, we're reading Atomic Habits. We did a bundle with Sora and gave the kids an access code, and it actually ended up being much less expensive than buying every one of those. It was like $3 or something like that. So it was really kind of cool, and they all have access.
But is that just for 90 days or how long?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think for you guys, you have it for 60 days or 90 days and then you're doing another 90
Right.
days. I think you're a little cheaper than.
Still cheaper than buying.
Any other questions or comments or suggestions for Noel? For us? Thanks, Noel. I will, if you send me this, I will send it out to everybody so they have access to the links.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I
Appreciate
put my
it.
email back up there just in case anyone still needed to jot it down, but thank you to everybody for attending, and I hope I'll hear from you if you've got any questions at all.
Okay, thanks, Noel.
All right. See y'all later.
Hey, we'll see ya.
Okay, take care.